Hello, I'm Voltaire Tupas. Today on Rappler Talk, we are chatting with Shida Salazar Henry, a mother who is opposing a power plant project here in Cebu, and Rodney Galicia of the Climate Reality Project in the Philippines. Hello, Rodney and Shida. Shida, your online initiative to oppose the coal-powered plant in Cebu has inspired a lot of communities and environmentalists across the country. Tell us about your story, your campaign, your successful campaign.
It was a case of being in the right place at the right time because I work for the city government in the Legislative Council. And so everything that happens in the city government, I get to know, I have information. So prior to that, there was already whispers that they're going to put a coal plant, but I did not believe it because I did not get to see it in the agenda of the city council. So one day I was checking on the agenda of the city council and I was shocked that there was a public hearing of a proposed 300 megawatt power plant in Barangay Sawang Calero where I live. I was jolted, I was shocked because I did not know about it. I immediately called my sister, Keisha Salazar, and I informed her and I told her, ask our neighbors if they know anything about it. So we found out 10 out of 10 people in our barangay did not know anything about the public hearing or the proposed power plant. So when I checked upstairs the session, there was not a single soul of people from Sawang Calero. So I sensed that there was something wrong with the situation. So I tried to gather the papers submitted by the Ludo Power Corporation, and I was again shocked because I found out that the officials in my barangay and together with the neighboring barangay Dulho and barangay Suba Pasil passed a resolution approving the proposal of a coal power plant in our barangay. So immediately, me and my sister Kisha talked and we started strategizing. Like, we need to put a stop to this. So what happened was we started researching and putting up a PowerPoint presentation. And then we decided that we will go block per block in our barangay and inform the people that there is going to be a coal power plant. So one night, this would be this area, and then we would just bring a sound system and a microphone and a, what do you call that, in the PowerPoint for like, just anywhere that we can, a computer, anywhere that we can mount a computer and a, what do you call this, something that we can show the video. So we'd focus on chapels because people would converge in chapels in our per block in our barangay. So I would start talking.
What would you say to them? What did you discover? Why are you opposing it, and how did they respond to
It
your
was hard at first because
presentation?
I'm a bit very private and shy, so I would say, "Good evening, everyone. I'm here. I'm not campaigning because it was under election time." I said, I am not campaigning. I'm just here to inform you about an issue that is going to affect our community. Do you know that there is a proposed, power plant to be built in by Ludo? And everyone would say, no, we did not know. Like, do you know what a coal power plant is? I said, no. I said, do you know where energy or electricity come from? I said, no. So I would then start showing the video, and then after that, and also the negative effects of a coal power plant. And
Which are, can you share with us what you discussed with the communities
so
that
I
are going to be
discussed to
affected?
them like the chemicals that are going to be released if there is a power plant, and the proximity of our houses with the plant, and the diseases that it will bring. And I also highlighted to them like, yes, there's going to be a job, but at the expense of your health and at the expense of being, it's only a 12-hectare. Ludo is only 12-hectare, and I know that they're going to expand because it's too small. If you look at other power plants, they're really big. And I said, there has to be an expansion because, some of you share a wall with Ludo. The Missionaries of the Poor shares a wall with Ludo. And the Sawang Calero Elementary School, their wall are like facing, the wall of Ludo and the wall of the school are facing with each other. So can you just imagine the noise that it will produce, or the the proximity of the children to the pollutants. That's what I really emphasized. Yeah.
Yeah. The community and the other areas that are affected were as surprised as you. How did they take the developments? How did they respond to your campaign?
Um, Basically, we focused on our barangay. So I talked to some of my friends in the neighboring community, and some of them who were for the administration who proposed, they were kind of like, why are you stopping progress? And me like, no, because that's not healthy, or there were some like an argument, but most of the people in the community that learn about it know that it's not good for the community. So some of them even approached me, a graduate of chemistry in Barangay Pasil. He approached me, and I gave him the notes of the public scoping documents that I have. And yeah, some of them approached me and also coordinated, but not as coordinated as our barangay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crucial that you pointed out progress because that's the main argument of the coal industry and even by the government. Rodney, you just came from Morocco at doon isinagawa yung climate change conference a year after the historic Paris Agreement was agreed upon by countries. Now it's being implemented. How are they taking this important historic document moving forward, and so that it would benefit countries like the Philippines na dependent pa rin sa coal?
So they agreed, of course, last year in 2015 in Paris, that the temperature of the world should be well below 2 degrees and will strive for 1.5 degrees. And that will entail mitigation. Ibig sabihin niyaan, dapat ay limitahan natin ang pagbuga ng carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases upang hindi matrap yung init sa ating mundo. Maraming mga mekanismo at alam naman natin yung mga developed countries, yung mga maunlad na bansa at karamihan sa kanila ay sila yung responsable sa pag-emit ng napakaraming greenhouse gases tulad ng carbon dioxide. Sila dahil napakayaman nila at meron silang resources, nagkaroon na sila ng transition mula sa dirty coal sa papunta doon sa mas malinis na source of energy tulad ng hydropower, ng wind power, ng geothermal power at iba pa, especially solar power. Doon sa Paris Agreement, dahil nandoon yung pausapin ng paglimita ng pagbuga ng carbon dioxide greenhouse gases, ibig nung sabihin, limitahan din ang paggamit ng nakasisirang mga sources of energy tulad ng coal-fired power plant, yung paggamit ng coal. At nakita doon natin na may aksyon, may panawagan ang Paris Agreement upang tigilan na ang paggamit ng coal-fired power plants. Lalong-lalo na kung meron tayong available na pagkukunan na mas malinis na enerhiya.
As we speak, that's happening in the Philippines. In fact, consumption of coal is on the upswing here in our country. It rose by 27% a few years ago. And now we have, in fact, inaugurated a new plant. And now there are efforts to introduce other coal power plants like in Cebu. What's the message of the Morocco Climate Change Conference to the private sector, to the government?
Una-una, kung babalikan natin yung sinabi ng ating dating Pangulo noong 2015 that we are aiming for 100% renewable energy by year 2050. At alam naman natin National Renewable Energy Plan natin by the year 2030 dapat malaki na rin yung percentage ng ating renewable energy. Ang call for action, yung Morocco kasi yung Conference of Parties sa 22 ang call for, yung main focus nila ay how to act doon sa Paris Agreement. At alam natin na pag sinabi nating Paris Agreement, naka-entail doon yung panawagan din dahil last year nag-submit tayo ng tinatawag na Intended Nationally Determined Contribution na kung saan tayo nag-commit na 70% dapat yung ating pagbawas ng greenhouse gas or lalo nga ng carbon dioxide by the year um, uh, uh, 2030. Um, ma-attain natin yon dahil alam natin sa Pilipinas yung greenhouse gas natin, unang-una nanggagaling yan, karamihan sa uh, transportation at of course lalong-lalo sa energy. At kung seryoso tayo doon, ang panawagan upang kumilos doon sa Marrakesh sa COP22 at kung naging seryoso tayo ay aksyonan yung 70% commitment natin conditionally. Alam natin pag conditional, kung merong ayuda na ibibigay yung mga developed countries, yung mga bansa, whether it can be financial or technical o kaya teknolohiya. Alam naman natin kung hindi tayo pumirma sa isang kasunduan at hindi ma-ratify yung isang kasunduan, yung iba ng developed countries na gustong magbigay at ay sasabihin, kanino kami magbibigay or bilaterally kasi meron namang Green Climate Fund na dapat ay $100 billion yung mailalagay doon, kasundo sila. Pero kung may bilateral o kaya kung pag-uusap yung iba't ibang bansa, kung magkakaroon ng tapatan o ikaw, nagpirma ka na ba sa Paris Agreement? Meron ka na bang commitment upang bawasan ng iyong greenhouse gas emission? Mas pipiliin ko yung mga bansa na pumirma at nag-ratify ng Paris Agreement kasi naandun yung rules, naandun yung mga panuntunan at dahil naandun yung pag-review, naandun yung pagre-report after 5 years, at least ako sigurado na yung tulong na ibibigay ko ay mapupunta doon sa sigurado akong gagawin nila.
Speaking of which, President Duterte has changed his position on the climate change agreement, so he's now supporting the deal. And moving forward, do you think there's enough political will of this administration to really embrace the deal and implement it here?
Kung makikita natin sa usapin ng droga, napakalaki ang political will ng ating presidente. At ang panawagan natin, kung anong klaseng political will ang ginagawa niya doon sa problema sa droga. Alam naman natin, pag ma-resolve ang problema sa droga, pero naandyan pa rin ang challenge o yung hamon ng climate change, lahat naman ang maisisave natin ng mga bata at ng mga tao sa ngayon at ng mga henerasyon sa hinaharap, mawawalan din ng buhay dahil naandyan ang napakalaking hamon na tinatawag nating krisis sa klima. Ang panawagan natin, kung anong klaseng political will yung ginawa ng ating Pangulo at naniniwala tayo doon sa pag-address ng problema sa droga, sana yun din yung klaseng political will ang kanyang gagawin upang may address, mabigyang solusyon yung problema natin sa krisis sa klima, be it be adaptation or mitigation.
But the President is raising an important point. Kasi yung mga bansa ngayon na malalaki, nag-emit na sila ng pollution, ng carbon pollution. Pero ito ay nakatulong sa kanilang development for the longest time, although it destroyed the environment. Ngayon, ang kanyang pagtingin, ang Pilipinas, mas babagal ang pag-usad kung ating babawasan pa yung consumption ng coal kasi at this point, dependent pa rin tayo sa coal. What do you say to that? Mayroon bang mga opportunities for us to move forward and embrace this new technology?
Valid yung argumento ng Presidente. Ngunit kung titingnan din natin, dadaanan ba natin o tatahakin ba natin yung daan na ginawa ng mga developed countries sa ngayon? At alam natin kung ano ang magiging epekto noon after 200 years or after 100 years. Parang, kung gagawin natin yung ginawa nila, alam na natin kung anong mangyayari. Pero may opportunities, kaya naandyan yung sa Marrakesh na doon sa Morocco na pag-usapan na yung ating aksyon sa Paris Agreement ay dapat ay kaakibat ang Sustainable Development Goals. At alam naman natin na last year nagkaroon na tayo ng 17 Sustainable Development Goals, yung targets. At doon naka-define at doon din sinasuggest ko anong mga dapat gawin na habang ating tinutugunan yung pangangailangan ng kasalukuyan, hindi naman natin sinasakripisyo yung kapakanan ng mga susunod na henerasyon. Yung tinatawag nating sustainable development.
What is the Morocco conference telling the private sector, the government?
Marami ang panawagan at nandiyan sa Paris Agreement. Ngunit yung pinagkaiba ng panawagan dito sa Morocco ay ang role ng civil society, ang role ng private sector Of course, nandiyan pa rin sa Paris Agreement yan. Ngunit, yung panawagan na dapat magkaroon tayo ng mas mataas na ambisyon. Mataas na ambisyon, ibig sabihin ay mas mataas na ambisyon na hindi lamang hindi lamang tayo titingin doon sa well below 2 degrees or 1.5, pero mas marami pa tayong magagawa before 2018 and before 2020. Dapat ay hindi tayo magpo-focus dun sa 2020 pa tayo mag-aaksyon, 2018 pa tayo mag-aaksyon, pero meron pang mga bagay na dapat nating aksyonan that will make a change before 2018 or 2020.
Yeah. At the end of the day, yung naapektuhan ay yung mga communities like those in Cebu. What do you say to the president's position? If you will be given the chance to talk to him, what would you tell him?
Well, I understand actually his point that the developed countries, are the major contributors. But for us, we're the ones directly affected. And I ask this question, like, progress over the lives of the people, and my children and my children's children. And then, like, you go for progress, but at the end of the day, this kind of progress is going to destroy the children. So, yeah, I'd like to ask him to seriously consider, his stand on this one, because I want a future for my children. Okay, I'm talking as a mother. I want a future for my children. I want to leave this earth knowing that my children's future is safe.
Which is ironic because actually sa buong mundo, yung trend ngayon ay may growth yung green energy sector. In other words, mayroong positive na mga developments na nagbe-benefit yung industry. Why is this not being felt in the Philippines? Because the last time your colleague, the Vice President Al Gore, visited the Philippines, he was saying the Philippines is left behind, particularly the leaders, because of their pro-coal stance. Why is this not being felt in the Philippines?
Maunawaan natin yan dahil una-una, nagkaroon tayo ng transition ng administrasyon. Hindi ko alam kung nagkaroon din ng pagpupulong kung paano i-address yung ganitong problema. Alam naman natin that honestly, last administration, medyo late na yung pagkaroon ng aksyon ng ating mga leaders tungkol sa Paris Agreement and sa climate action din. Nagpapasalamat tayo dahil nagkaroon ng mga pulisiya, pero medyo huli, pero natutuwa tayo. At nagkaroon din ng good news dahil ang ating Pangulo ay nagsabi na, okay, we will ratify the Paris Agreement. However, dahil nga siguro hindi nag-uusap-usap din ang ating mga iba't ibang secretary, at natutuwa tayo na halos karamihan or 90% or 99% na ng mga kagawaran ay nagbigay ng certificate of concurrence upang ma-ratify yung Paris Agreement. Iisa na lang at yung Department of Energy na siya dapat yung nangunguna din sa climate action. Nakita natin na tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung pagsasabi na okay, let's do coal-fired power plants. Mag-open pa tayo ng mas marami. We're expecting again na magkakaroon sa Negros. Na alam naman natin yung Negros ay merong geothermal doon, merong solar power at iba pa. At bakit ka mag-i-introduce ng coal? Ang sabi nga natin, yung polisiya para sa renewable energy at sa clean future natin ng Pilipinas ay nandiyan na. Ang kulang na lang ay ang tamang tao at ang tamang implementasyon. At ang sabi nga natin, kung anumang klaseng political will ang ginagawa ng ating Pangulo sa ibang mga issue, sana dito magkakaroon din siya ng political will, kapantay o higit pa doon sa ginagawa niyang pag-implement ng iba't ibang mga programa. Nananawagan tayo sa Department of Energy, kay Secretary Cusi, mukhang pabalik ang panahon sa sitwasyon ngayon ng Department of Energy. We need to think of the sustainable growth, the sustainable economy, and sustainable future ng Pilipinas. Alam natin na yung coal-fired power plants at yung coal, yung naging dahilan for almost 200 years ng iba't ibang mga extreme weather conditions. Opening up coal-fired power plants, mas marami, we are sleeping with Yolanda. Again, with And also we're flying low with Lawin. And we are swimming in the floods again with Ondoy. We will not allow that. We will not allow that the very culprit of these extreme weather conditions will be taken care of by our government.
Which you felt here in Cebu. You were here when Yolanda struck. Yung mga communities, gaano ang kanilang resolve? How strong is their resolve to pursue the campaign, to stand their ground?
My community is really resolved, and they have stand their ground even after when the proposal was rejected by the city council, because we put political pressure on them. It was we made it an election issue. We forced them. We said we are not voting for any councillor who is going to what you call this, to approve this proposal. So it worked. We pressured them. And right after that, they said, let's remain vigilant. So every now and then, when me and my neighbors are gonna be talking, they would say, oy, ano na, kumusta na? Baka may balita na ganito yung mangyayari, may proposal na naman, o ganyan. So let's be vigilant, because we know that they're not gonna stop. They're going to be back, you know.
But one of your champions, a former councillor, lost the election. Well,
Yes.
they say precisely because of her position against the coal-powered plant. You personally, you took the risk. It cost you your job, as you told us.
My job.
Can you tell us how are you dealing with that personal setback, if I may call it? And
Yeah,
what's keeping you moving?
I'm very thankful to Councilor Nida Cabrera, because when the moment I learned about it, I set up a meeting with her, because back then she was the chairman of the Committee on Environment, and she said, okay, I'll help you fight against this. So I lost my job in the process, because the party that my boss was connected with were the proponent. They were in the same team, the two proponents of the coal plant, and I think it kind of got them mad. It caused displeasure on their part. So I know I compromised the position of my boss, because I was his executive assistant. I was his chief of staff, and so I said, okay, I will resign, so that, you know, because the longer I stayed in this office, the more they're going to be mad at you. And fortunately, he won again this year's election. So I think it's worth it. Losing the job is worth it. It's just a job, but you know, the future and the lives of my children and my neighbors and the livelihood of my community, which is a fishing community, is very much worth losing my job over.
If it will be revived, will you fight again?
Yes, definitely. And not only me, but the people will. We are constantly vigilant and on the lookout of any moves of Ludo.
And for those who are going to hear this interview or see this interview, if there are other communities which are experiencing the same issues, facing the same issues, what would you tell them? What lessons did you learn from your campaign?
First and foremost, be vigilant over the actions of your city council, because that's where it starts. The moment it is approved, that starts the ball rolling of putting a power plant. And do not be afraid to speak out, and do not be afraid to ask for help outside your community. And at the same time, somebody has to champion within the community. But for us, it's a group effort. Nobody is stands out in what we did. You have to listen to the two sides of the story, because this company are coming into your community. They're gonna say you're gonna have jobs. Even in my community, they said you're gonna have free electricity, for which we know it's not true. And they're gonna promise you money and everything. They're gonna offer you money, but then you also have to look at the scientific facts there is. It's already been proven that this will destroy our environment. This will destroy our community. And the most important thing is to stand up and always develop a sense of community with each other. That is very important, because that was the one thing that holds my community together. And it was so amazing, because before, my community was divided politically, two parties. But when Ludo happened, party lines disappeared. and we were there as one community.
Amazing cooperation and solidarity among the people affected. This is very related with the national and international campaigns and struggles against coal. How is this inspiring your movement to carry on the fight? The struggle of the people from Cebu.
The struggle of the people from Cebu really inspired us. We have climate reality leaders in Cebu, and working with the government, with the local government, and with the communities as well. There are actions by the government towards a clean future, but that action will be fired and fueled by the power of the people. The power of the grassroots should be on top top priority. Ang kapangyarihan ng mga tao, kung hindi kikilos yung pamahalaan, ay napaka-importante. Ang grassroots movements sa pagkilos tungkol sa klima ay napaka-importante. Dahil alam naman natin, kung hindi kikilos yung ating pamahalaan, dapat kikilos yung ating mga mamamayan. Ngunit kung kikilos ang pamahalaan at kikilos din ang mga mamamayan, we are moving towards a very clean and sustainable future. Participative dapat siya and inclusive. When it comes sa usapin ng ating bansa, ang natitira na lamang na argumento diyan ay yung pag-unlad o kaunlaran. Nang sabi nga, kung hindi tayo gagamit ng coal bilang source of energy, hindi tayo uunlad. Ngunit pinaalalahanan na lang natin ang mga kinaukulan ng National Economic Development Authority ay nagsalita na. Kung ang ating concern ay tungkol sa kaunlaran, tungkol sa industrialization, ang pinaka-authorized doon na magsalita tungkol dyan ay ang NEDA. At nagsabi sila ng Paris Agreement ay makakatulong sa pag-unlad ng ating bansa. Na ang United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, na kung saan tayo ay miyembro, party tayo doon, ay makatutulong din doon sa ating pagtahak tungo sa kaunlaran na hindi nakasisira ng kinabukasan ng ating mga anak, ng ating mga kabataan.
On that call to action, we are going to wrap up this discussion. Thank you for joining us. We've been talking to Rodney Galicia of the Climate Reality Project and to climate action advocate Shida Salazar Henry. Thank you for joining us.